We are thrilled to welcome President Harlan Sands to join us today. President Sands took the helm of Cleveland State University as its seventh president in 2018, and he has set a pace for quality growth that is the envy of other institutions of higher ed. Despite the ravages of the pandemic, Cleveland State has strengthened its finances, implemented new recruitment and marketing strategies, including partnerships with our local community colleges, created an innovative living learning community for students of Cleveland Metropolitan School District, and set new records for giving and donor support. In addition, they have responded to the needs of the community, and President Sands opened his campus for Ohio's sole federal mass vaccination clinic, where they administered 275,000 vaccinations. While he's doing all this and positioning his institution for the future, he's attuned to the unique needs of his students. You can find him walking with them on campus, zooming into remote classrooms, and reaching out to understand their challenges. He came to Cleveland State from the Wharton School of Business at the University of Pennsylvania from position of CFO and COO, and prior to this had more than 20 years of experience in all aspects of higher ed, from teaching and administration. The University of Louisville, the University of Alabama at Birmingham, and Florida International University. And if that isn't enough for you, he had two careers prior to that. He was an assistant public defender in Miami representing indigent clients, and he had 10 years active duty in the U.S. Navy, including 2 commendation medals for his service during Desert Storm. He is committed to making Cleveland State an anchor institution as well as a beacon of hope for Cleveland, and he knows that Cleveland State produces the talent that drives our region forward. President Sands, thank you for joining us today. I turn it over to you.
Wow, Marianne, that was really good. Can we get you on as a part-time PR person for Cleveland State? Because I think that was really a nice encapsulation of what we're really proud of since I've been here. And I've taken a look at some of you in the room, and I recognize a lot of faces, and that just is a sign of what Cleveland is all about. From the first day that I stepped foot on our campus and was able to build bonds and relationships in our city, our university is a reflection of all of you. And as Cleveland State goes, there goes the region and the city. And we understand that. The city is our campus, and we've tried to do everything and will continue to do everything to build the great work that's been done over the past 57 years in Cleveland State's existence, and especially in the past few years. And I want to talk a little bit today, and I think the topic today is talk about the pandemic and how we've learned about ourselves, about our role, and taken this opportunity to kind of look at where we are and chart a course for the future. Because in all of my various careers, the one thing that's constant is that in a crisis, there's no better time to take stock of yourself and figure out who you are. And you find that out pretty quickly, as most of you have found out in your various positions. And then use the opportunity, because that's what this is. It's an opportunity in stormy seas to figure out where you want to be when we emerge from this pandemic. And we've said this all along, we will emerge from this. And hopefully what we're all feeling now, the excitement is that piece, is how we're gonna come out of it. So I thought what I would do is just kind of amplify a couple of themes Marianne highlighted. I want to thank you, Marianne, and the Cleveland Leadership Center for this opportunity. My main job here is to be the chief advocate for Cleveland State University. That's how I wake up every day. That's what I think about, is how to be an advocate for our faculty, staff, and students, how to be an advocate for the great things that we're doing every day to help drive growth in the city. Let me just walk through really quickly, take us back to early March of last year. It's hard to believe. Does anybody even remember BP before pandemic? We're starting to get a feel now for what it's like, what it was like. So we had to do something that no other industry had to do before pandemic. We had to change the whole way we did business in about a 2-week period. We completely shut down our on-campus operations, and we took a step back and we talked to our faculty, we talked to our leadership team, and we were a little bit more patient before we decided what we were going to do, because it was important as an institution that stresses shared governance to find out what it would take to flip all of our courses to remote teaching and learning. And I use that term very intentionally. We did not go to an online environment. This was really about how we were going to shift our product to a remote teaching and learning environment. And we ended up spending about a week or 10 days talking to our faculty leadership, and our leadership team and our technical people. How could we do this in a way that could be most supportive? So we took a little heat early on for not announcing what we were going to do and extending spring break. But when we came out of that initial period where we kind of locked things down for a bit, we decided that we were going to support, I think it's close to 8 different technologies and how we were going to do the remote teaching and learning environment. We didn't dictate, hey, we're going to use Zoom and we're going to use Blackboard. And for those of you that have become familiar with these systems, that was a big step for us. So we invested in ourselves. We took some of our reserves. And at that point, no one knew that there would ever be coronavirus money flowing from the state, the feds. This is what you prepare for as an institution. If you can't use your rainy day funds for probably the rainiest day we're all ever going to see, then you'll probably never use them. So we didn't wait. We invested in ourselves. And I'm proud to say that we got very, very high marks for how we got through the spring semester. And our enrollments over the past year and a half really are a signal to, I think, how well our team did in making sure we were connected with students and making sure that we come out of this in a way that we learn the lessons we need to learn from how we've been operating the last year and a half. Will we go back to what we all understood was normal before pandemic? No. There are things that we learned work really well remotely. I'll give you an example. One of the things that we learned was that office hours and meeting with faculty when students have issues after class, instead of having students line up in buildings in the hallways waiting for the faculty member to free up, the remote environment works really well for that. So we're going to keep elements of that, just to give you one example. So after we really pivoted and decided how to pivot, we thought it was a good opportunity then to talk about, right in the beginning, this is March and April of last year, how are we going to come out of this pandemic? And we didn't even know at that point, what that was going to look like. So we ended up starting 5 individual task forces, and we called it CSU 2.0. And it was a ground up effort to talk about our university with what we were going to learn in the pandemic. We knew this was going to take some time. And we spent the better part of a year charting out where we are as an institution, where we want to go, what we've learned from the pandemic. And I'm really proud to say that we now have a working document. It's called our CSU 2.0 plan. It was a group effort, literally a very ambitious group effort. But we now have a blueprint for our future, and it calls for CSU to grow, to get to 20,000 students by 2025. Now think about what this means for an institution and what it means for the region. The environment under which we came up with this, with a lot of challenges facing higher education, students facing challenges just in staying in school. We took the long view, and we are now, I think, in a great position, both financially and otherwise, to invest in ourselves. We were able, through partnerships with our community colleges, as Marianne mentioned, but also as part of our new Cleveland Innovation District, where the state is investing hundreds of millions of dollars, much of which will come to Cleveland State to build a pipeline for students that need training and degrees in careers and in fields that lead to really well-paying jobs and are life changers for our students. So out of this 2.0 plan that we now have for the future, growth is a big part of it. And you know what it's done for the region, and I think Marianne also hinted at this a little bit, it's energized folks. So in a time of a storm, when a lot of folks are battening down the hatches, I know I'm using a lot of Navy terms, but you all understand what that means. What better time to invest in ourselves and grow? And we are an anchor institution. We are the home of many first-generation, first-time in college students, and graduating from CSU, and we just had our first large-scale event. We did commencement at Progressive Field. I'm going to have a hard time going back to Wallstein Center, as great as Progressive Field was, as long as it doesn't snow in May, which it did the weekend before, and the Indians had to cancel a game. But it was a great day for us. But when you see those faces and how much we mean to the students that graduate, many of them the first ones in the families to graduate, this is the lifeblood of our city, and it's going to provide the fuel for our future growth. Beyond that, we are ready and we are poised to become a beacon. And what I mean by a beacon is we're going to bring talent, students, faculty, and staff from outside of Cleveland. One of the main tenets of CSU 2.0 is growing our enrollments. We've gone ahead and recruited 40 new faculty each of the past 2 years. No university has even come close to recruiting in a time of a pandemic, and you would not be surprised, because of the energy and the way our team has responded to the pandemic, the kind of folks that are going to be joining us and joined us last year. So it's a reinforcement of what we all believed at Cleveland State, that was a good time for us to look at where we are and who we are. The other piece I'd like to highlight, which a lot of you probably have experienced in your own particular industries and professional lives and personal lives, is you really find out what being part of a larger community and a family is. And even though we were remote and even though we were distant, I think we showed a lot. And I see some of our faculty and staff are here today. I see some familiar faces, and there's an incredible amount of pride in who we are. Many of our folks went above and beyond the call of duty in making sure students stayed engaged. Our persistence rates for the first-year students have gone up 6 percentage points in 2 years. And if you think that's easy in higher education, we'll bring you in and talk about some of those things that we did. The living learning community, where we provide, thanks to the largesse of our partners at Parker Hannafin, we provide 60 students with a living learning community fully paid as part of their CMSD Say Yes to Education scholarship. So not only do they get free tuition, they get free room and board, and they get mentoring and counseling and a living learning community in our residence halls. And I have to tell you, just to show you we can do this and nobody does it better, our first 2 cohorts are almost 100% retained for the following year. I mean, think about what retention rates are for a lot of the students that we work with and are struggling with things. So really proud of the things we've done. Really proud of the strength that we built and the financial stability that we have that enables us to invest in ourselves. And that's exactly what we're going to do, and you're going to see more of it from Cleveland State. Let me mention really quickly something I read this morning, which I think will kind of give a sense. I thought I'd give a sense of what the next few years are going to be like for us as we try to build Cleveland and recruit folks to Cleveland and retain and grow talent here. So I saw an article in I think it was one of the local papers this morning about Cedar Point and how they couldn't open because they couldn't staff enough of they couldn't staff the place. And then they fixed it by offering employees $20 an hour to work as a seasonal employee at Cedar Point. Think about what that means in terms, as you see, our economy is I would call it right now, is heated, and it's only heating up more. When you have students that are juggling families and trying to pay the bills and have had industries that are transformed, whether it be the service industry, which is now starting to make a comeback, and it will, when places like Cedar Point can pay $20 an hour, when there are jobs that pay $18, $20, $22, $24 an hour, oftentimes education takes a back seat and people take time off. This is one of those things where we as a community need to keep the pressure and the focus on helping folks get that bachelor's degree. Because no offense to those positions, they're good jobs, they pay the bills, but the life transforming event of getting a bachelor's degree, a bachelor's degree is still worth about $1.2 million in extra income over the course of a lifetime. And that's not going to change anytime soon. So how to keep our current, future, and future students engaged to the point where they understand the value of that degree, and we help them financially and otherwise be able to get through CSU. It's what a lot of us at CSU wake up thinking about, because that's the challenge now. And there are going to be many more industries that are going to be paying what I think are much better wages. So this is a challenge for all of us as a society. It's not an either or, it's a way to navigate through this, because what you learn as part of that bachelor's degree is transformative in terms of what you can accomplish in your lifetime. So that's just something that I wanted to jump out. The other that I wanted to mention that jumped out at me this morning. The other thing I will tell you that we are very proud of is our partnerships. And you're going to be seeing more things. There's something coming out. It's not out now today about another Cleveland State partnership that is not going to surprise you all. But we are only as good as our partnerships will take us, whether they be at the state level, whether they be here inside the city with our very charitable community and the folks that want to support our students. We've raised more money the past couple of years than we ever have, and it's a credit to who we are. And much of that money goes directly to help our students and help us build programs. I'll mention one other that we're particularly proud of. When I got here, it was clear that we needed to focus more resources on student retention, and I mentioned that persistence rate. We now have 8 success coaches, not academic coaches, not athletics coaches, but coaches that we put to work with specific student cohorts that come with us for the first time. These are coaches that just help students that are often in college for the first time just get through the challenges of being in college. Anything can knock our students off the puck. It could be a tough day at home. They don't have enough cash to put gas in their car. They have family members to take care of. The job requirements are too overwhelming. These coaches help students navigate what it's like. You take it for granted that a lot of us know what to do when we show up on a college campus. Not so. And these coaches have done tremendous work. It's a little bit intrusive. They follow students around when they don't show up to class. We believe in the model. It works. Our numbers prove it. So those are the kinds of things when you go out and talk to the community and on behalf of Cleveland State, and when you talk about the things that we're doing, this is just another idea. So I want to wrap up before I open it up for questions with just a couple of thoughts. One, our students make great employees. We're constantly in demand. Right now, we can't produce enough students for the growing industries in Cleveland. And so what you're going to see out of us, we're going to double down on our commitment to co-ops and paid internships. We're going to build a one-stop shop. We're going to call it our co-op connector. It's going to be centered right across from my office where I'm sitting now on Euclid Avenue. And if you work for a company, and I've gotten more interest in this, we're going to have a one place for companies, large and small, to come on our campus, and it's going to be co-branded. Say the CSU, Jobs Ohio, all the companies that want to be there, and we're going to connect companies and connect our students to all of the great opportunities there are in Cleveland. And who better to do that than us? Look where we're sitting. It's a great recruitment piece for students that want to be here. Parents love it because they're asking questions now. Our price value proposition is better than anyone. I'll put our experience up against the private universities I've worked at and gone to. It's just a fantastic value. So with that, I appreciate it. I hope I've given you some thoughts and some excitement about CSU. I'm happy to be here. I just finished my 3rd year here. We're recruiting new talent every day. We truly have a faculty that's completely supportive of our mission. The partnership things we've done with our faculty over the past 3 years our competitors haven't been able to come close. So really proud of the brand. Thank you all. I'm ready to answer any questions you might have, except from the trustee that's here. He gets to ask them at all of our trustee meetings. Right, Steve? I see you're out there. I'm sure you're listening.
Well, President Sands, thank you so much for sharing the vision and the plans to come. We have had a few questions come in. So to start, as we're coming out of this past year, we've heard a lot about college access and who may or may not be able to attend given changes in personal circumstances.
Yeah.
Have you seen that impact on the enrolling class, and how might that class look like coming in?
Yeah, so good question. I think our freshman numbers are really strong. Last year was a different year because there was a lot of unknowns, but we did really well last year vis-a-vis the other 14 state universities. I think we were fourth in overall enrollments across the 14 publics. And if you pull out the two that were first, Ohio State and University of Cincinnati, which are both 45,000 plus students, really, really proud of that. It's a sign of who we are and the fact that I think even in a pandemic, folks are looking at the proposition, what we provide. There's a challenge this year in students getting them to come back. We've seen a little bit of a dip in re-enrollments for the fall. And I think that story I told you earlier is one of the challenges, is that there are good jobs out there. And we have to, I think the challenge for us is to convince students that now is the time to come back. We're going to go back to a fully operational university. And that means we're still going to have some hybrid courses. But I think students are really yearning to go back to whatever the new normal is going to be. We pushed the envelope over the last year too. We had almost 50% of our classes on campus, even through the pandemic. We had one of the lowest positivity rates for the students that were tested for COVID. So we know how to do this, and we're very, very confident. But it is a challenge because there's a lot of things tugging at our students. I'm bullish on enrollments. I always am. And I think we're going to get a lot of students that are going to sign up over the last couple of months. At least that's what we're expecting.
Can you talk a bit more about the plans to increase the number of students? So for example, Are you targeting non-traditional students, changing program requirements, increasing residential capacities?
Yes, yes, and yes, Rachel. So we have a three-pronged strategy for enrollment growth. First of all, we built something a couple of years ago called CSU Global. We turned around an 8-year trend of declining graduate enrollments, and I see one of the architects of this, Nigamith Sridhar, is here, and Nigamith, who's on a leave of absence to work at the National Science Foundation, was instrumental in helping us reverse that trend and helping us stand up CSU Global. We had 300 students show up in January in the middle of a pandemic on campus to start college at Cleveland State. So this is an important piece of our growth. We've always been a welcoming place for folks from all over the world. And I think this is a really keen growth area. That's one. The second piece is obviously we're now a first choice institution for many, many high schools in the 5 surrounding counties. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, we used to get, I'm probably going back about 9 years, we would get 1 or 2 students from Parma, the Parma School District. Last year, we had 31 freshmen from the Parma high schools, 31, first choice institution. And that's the kind of brand we're building. The third piece is what I would call the 1.5 million Ohioans that have some college and no degree. If we can crack this nut, we will do something that no one's been able to do. And we've got a couple of initiatives and some big ones in the hopper that we're going to tackle this. Some of that is going to be what we've learned in the pandemic in terms of how we can deliver remote teaching and learning and get folks engaged. Because we now know we can do this. Not for everyone. It's not for everyone. I'm a firm believer that the crucible of being in a classroom and on a breathing campus for students to learn, predominantly younger students, is really important. But for older students that have lives and jobs, the remote piece really works, and it can work really well. And we are done giving away that part of the market to the for-profit universities, which you see advertised all day long. Their product, their quality is not what ours is. And we're going to take a big swing at that market because I think it's important to the future of the region that we get folks educated that may have stopped out, dropped out, or just not finished for various reasons. This piece of the market is really important to us. So I hope I've given you some sense of our strategy. I'm very bullish on what we can do. Urban schools, adults, younger folks, they want to be at a school that's vibrant. They want to be at a place that's in a city. This is the trend, and we're perfectly positioned to do this.
So we hear about educating for careers of the future, some of which do not exist yet. How does your 2.0 plan anticipate these changes and prepare your students for the future?
So one of the hardest things to do in higher education is to pivot. You know, we are really good at planting 1,000 seeds and watching 200 trees grow and not really doing a lot of trimming, because we take pride in the fact that we have 170 plus majors, and we value a robust education and with students that have a lot of choices and can enhance their learning a lot of different ways. All that is good. When it comes to emerging needs of the market of our region, we have to do some pivoting, because we're an important part, and we're the only talent driver here that can produce these degreed individuals to scale. So the Jobs Ohio investment, we are going to build over the next 10 years. We're going to double the number of degrees that we produce in 19 specific areas, both undergrad and graduate students. And they're the things that you would think about are going to drive the economy. Now, they may change over time, but when you think about data analytics, biostatistics, computer sciences, certainly some health profession fields is all part of that mix. So we have a game plan, but we're going to build into the plan an ability for us to pivot, because the employers have to drive some of this. Now, here's the other thing I'll tell you as potential employers of our students. Don't count out the English majors, the history majors, the music majors. Part of what we tend to think in silos and think, okay, I must hire an engineer or a business major. If you go look at successful people that have done real well in the private sector, you know, most businesses will train someone. It's the value of that 4-year education that matters. Having that critical thinking skill set. And for that, I'm a firm believer in a liberal arts education. We just have to do a better job getting those students slotted in positions that traditionally we hold aside for, you know, regimented majors.
So how do you look to work with the private sector to address access, affordability, and financial wellness for students, particularly first-generation students?
So Rachel, and thanks for that question. It's not as hard as it seems, because we have a great reputation in the community for producing students who work. They work hard. They're not entitled, no chips on our shoulders. I can speak from knowledge as someone who's worked at a private institution and a product of a private university training. Our students, by and large, are the ones you want to hire. So with that as a backdrop, it's not really that hard to get the business community engaged. The challenge, as I mentioned earlier, is finding that marketplace where we break through the traditional way which students get hired and students are found. Especially students that are first-gen students, underrepresented minority students who don't have those networks. We got to help them build those networks and connect them. And we're ready to do that. We've already started plans to build out our connector. We've got community partners lined up to do it. So I'm really confident. We made the commitment a year and a half ago that any student that comes to Cleveland State that wants a paid internship will get one. Period. That's our commitment. And there's some good models out there, some aspirant universities that have done this well. One of them in our very state, University of Cincinnati, Drexel University in Philadelphia, Northeastern University in Boston. These are the models that need to work for Cleveland. So our growth is really, really important. And that's what we're driving for. It's going to only help the region.
President Sands, we thank you for your time and sharing the vision of Cleveland State, and we are very much looking forward to watching the university grow and help our region. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to Mary Ann.
Thanks so much, Rachel. President Sands, that was truly inspirational. Thank you for your leadership, not just for Cleveland State, but with an eye toward being that beacon of hope for all of us. I think you have a lot of fans on this call who stand ready to help in any way. So we are your Viking supporters. Thank you.
I'm gonna hold you all to that. I hope you all know that. Thank you all. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Really appreciate it.